Hi BookTube, my name is Sarah and welcome to my channel, The Bookish Knitter. Today I am coming to you with a really fun collab video. I am so excited about this. I think it's going to be spectacular. So I am doing this collab with the lovely Steph over at Steph's Romance Book Talk. Link, of course, below to her video. Please go and check it out. She is fantastic. So essentially, like I said, we both love romance, but we both love different sides of the spectrum in a way. She prefers her books to be more steamy. I mean, in her videos when she does her wrap-ups, she gives a Steam fan rating, for how spicy the book is. I do mention the amount of adult content in my books, in the books I read, for you guys, so you will know whether it's something that you might enjoy picking up or not. But like I said, very rarely do we actually, meet in the middle, if you will. So what we did is we picked 8 pretty standard romance tropes, like tropes within romance novels. And we're going to give you a recommendation for each. So Steph's video, the romance novels, of course, that she's going to talk about are going to be a lot more spicy than the ones I'm going to talk about. Now, as a disclaimer, before I start giving you guys my recommendations, the books that I'm recommending, I'm not saying are clean. I'm not saying that they have 0 adult content in them. There is potentially going to be some in these books. But again, on that sliding scale, it definitely veers more towards the cleaner aspect. There might only be 1 or 2 scenes, or most of it might be behind closed doors. It's just implied. These are books, the way that I looked at it is these are the kind of books that I would have been totally comfortable having my grandmother read, or books that I would definitely hand off to my mother to read, without worrying because, they don't like, or grandma didn't like that kind of thing. And, my mom could take it or leave it. Or my friend Rainy over at Rainy Day Reads. I know she's not really into the adult content. So these are all books that I would say to her, read these ones, because I think that they are going to be clean enough. So, all that being said, let's jump into the video. So the first trope is an absolute favorite of mine. These are in no particular order, by the way, and it's enemies to lovers. I do love a good enemies to lovers. Now, a lot of these books could cross over to different tropes. And also, there are a couple different authors on this list that I could have used multiple of their books for different tropes. But I decided to use one author, like one book per author, just to make it fair. So this wasn't a complete list of just 2 or 3 different authors. So the first book, like I said, Enemies to Lovers, and that book is The Best Man by Kristen Higgins. You guys know, if you've been watching my channel, I'm a huge, huge, huge fan of Kristen Higgins. I think she is fantastic. This is back when she used to write majority contemporary romance. So this is the story of Levi and Faith, and this is a favorite book of mine. When people ask me where to start with Kristen Higgins books, I recommend this one and just one of the guys. But I actually have to say that this one might even be more of a favorite to me. So the plot of this story is that Faith is engaged to Jeremy, which is Levi's best friend. The thing is that Levi has known since him and Jeremy met, early in high school, that Jeremy is actually gay. And Jeremy did not want to admit that to himself or to anybody else. But, Levi kind of knew. So literally on the day of their wedding, now this is not a spoiler, this is literally in the prologue of the book. Levi pulls Faith aside, or pulls Jeremy aside and says, you can't do this to her. You can't do this. So Jeremy ends up calling off the wedding. Well, Faith, very upset, she takes off, she leaves. She's angry at Levi because she blames him. In retrospect, as the story continues on, she kind of realizes why Levi obviously did what he did, but she is still angry with him. And they have been friends since they were young, but never really got along. So I consider it to be an enemies to lovers kind of an idea. This book goes back and forth in time to when they were children, to something that happened in Faith's childhood that really affected her. It was amazing. This book makes me cry every single time I read it. It's just such a wonderful, wonderful story. And yeah, highly recommend a great enemies to lovers story. The next one is a workplace romance. And this one, again, I could have pulled different authors and things like that. There's another author that is on this list that I could have used another one of their books for this, but I decided to go with a different author. So the book for Workplace is Pretty Face by Lucy Parker. This is the second book in the London Celebrities series. Actually, any of the books in this series would probably fit that workplace trope, workplace romance trope. essentially the series focuses around a West End London theater and the people who work at the theater and so on and so forth. So in this book, our two main characters are Lily and Luke, and there is an age gap. This would also be considered age gap. It's not on this list, but if you're looking for an age gap romance, this one would definitely work for that. And she is kind of new to the theater. She's been working in television, and she's maybe not, she's trying to transition from one to the other, and it's not really easy, and Luke is trying to help her with that. So it's also a bit of animosity, like he doesn't really like the fact that she's there, and he thinks that she's kind of, she thinks she might be better than the theater actors. There's a whole thing that goes on between the two of them. There is some adult content in this book. Again, it's not prominent in the story. There are a few scenes. Most of it ends up being fade to black. But I really enjoyed this one. I'm pretty sure I gave this one 5 stars when I read it. I absolutely loved it. And I highly recommend this one and this entire series. I've read the first 3, I think, in this series and have not been disappointed in any of them. They are absolutely fantastic. Next up on the list, Secret Baby, which I will be honest and say that Secret Baby is one of my least favorite tropes. There is a plethora of secret babies all over the place, and it's just like, come on, it's a little much. Kind of like, how there's like a gazillion dukes running around in historical fiction or historical romance. Don't get me started on that either. But yeah, Secret Baby, my least favorite, but I did find one for it, and it's a book I actually really enjoy. And that book is Almost Perfect by Susan Mallory. It is the second book in the Fool's Gold series. So in this one, our two main characters, Ethan and, I should have written it down. I cannot remember her name. Oh my gosh, how horrible is that of me? I'll put it right here. They were dated in high school on the side because she was kind of from the wrong side of the tracks and he was from a very prominent family in town, and he was kind of seeing her on the side, and then she ends up getting pregnant, and she catches him in a compromising position with someone else, and she leaves and then finds out after she's left that she's pregnant. So she tries to come back to tell him that, hey, this is the situation, but his mother, his girlfriend or something like that, pretty much just says, go away, he doesn't want to deal with you, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, many, many years go by. She now has a 10-year-old son, and her nieces who live in the town of Fool's Gold where she grew up are going through a very difficult time. Their father's in jail. So she comes back to kind of help with her nieces. And of course, Ethan meets his son, and the story goes from there. So it is a secret baby, secret child kind of an idea, but I really like the way it was done. Because my thing with a lot of the secret baby stuff is like, well, why haven't you tried to reach out? Why haven't you tried to do anything? But the fact that she actually does try to, I kind of give credit to. And there's that whole other part of the story about this other person not telling Ethan. And yeah, it was really good. I like this one. The Fool's Gold series is a favorite of mine. It's now done. I think there was 20 some odd books in the series. Really great small town romance set in California. If you have not read it yet, I highly recommend that you do so. Next up, we have Fairytale Retellings. So this one was actually kind of a bit difficult for me because I was trying to think of something within contemporary romance that would work for this. And I actually ended up going with a historical romance novel. And this one might be, from this entire list I'm going to give you, probably the most spicy in terms of spiciness. But still, this one doesn't stand out to me as being exceptionally adult. And that book is Kiss at Midnight, or A Kiss at Midnight by Eloisa James, which is the first book in the Fairytale Retelling, in the Fairytale series. So clearly this is a retelling of Cinderella. I think that this one was so fantastically done. It was just to this side of quirky to make it extra fairy tale believable. It wasn't like it was, completely straight laced set in, in this time period and adhered to what would have happened in that time period or in modern day. It had this very whimsical quality to it that made it feel like you were reading a fairy tale, and I really liked it. Also on that note, and again, just a bit more spicy than that one, for those of you who are rereading through the Bridgerton series right now, An Offer from a Gentleman, which is Benedict's story, which is the third book in the series. His is also a Cinderella retelling, and it was so well done as well. I just love a good Cinderella retelling. I don't know why. But yeah, if I had to recommend, I'd say those two. But, they are still a bit, even the Bridgertons, like for those of you who've only watched the show and went, oh my gosh, that show was just like on fire with like adult content. The books are a bit more tame than that. I assure you. I mean, they're not completely clean, but they are a bit more tame than what you actually see in the TV show. Next up, Road Trip. Oh, this book I read in 2020, and it was one of my favorites. This book was so good. It was also my first book by this author, and it seems to me like I like the author, and I've liked some more of the stuff that I've read by her. But I think I started like at the top, and unfortunately nothing else is just kind of matching up to this story. And that book is With This Heart by R.S. Gray. This was amazing. This is of course, a road trip romance, and it's about these two people who meet and who've never met before. Like, she was actually as the story opens up, she's in a funeral home and she wants to buy an urn. And then she's going on this road trip, and every time they stop on this road trip, so she invites this guy she doesn't even know to come with her. And every time they stop somewhere, she's sprinkling some stuff out of this urn. And the whole story kind of goes from there, their romance. She's harboring a big secret from him. And it was amazing. This story, I don't want to say too much because I literally went into this book blind. I had no idea what this book was about, and I really think it worked well. Not knowing, kind of going in, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody else. It's not like a big twist or a big secret or anything like that, but as the story gets revealed to our male lead, it gets revealed to him as well as us as the readers. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It was so, so good. And I absolutely, absolutely love this one. Next up, we have Single Parent. I like a good single parent romance. I don't hate on them. I think they're fantastic. This is actually a Christmas one that I read back in December, and it's Christmas on Reindeer Road by Debbie Mason, and this is the second book in the Highland Falls series. So this was really cute. Our main couple, our female lead, is a widow. Her husband, who was much older than her, has passed away, and he had two teenage stepsons, he had two teenage sons. So she has teenage stepsons, and she is taking custody of them, and she's going back to her hometown of Highland Falls. When she arrives back in town, she meets the local sheriff, and he is a single dad to three very rambunctious little boys. And the two of them end up, of course, being next door neighbors. So it's their relationship dealing with the town, dealing with, their children. He's also a widower. So his wife's parents, so his in-laws, and how they feel like he's not raising his boys right, and they want to take him away and get custody. So there's a whole thing right there. Debbie Mason is a really great author. I thoroughly enjoyed this story. I thought it was fantastic. And I highly recommend it, this whole series. But this one is definitely the one that focuses on single parent. The next one, Forced Proximity. This one could have also worked for Enemies to Lovers. And what else could it have worked for now that I'm thinking about it? So we got Forced Proximity, Enemies to Lovers, Fake Relationship. Could have worked for that as well. But that book was my favorite book of 2019, The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I loved this book so much. Okay, so I'm sure you've all heard about this one 1,000 times, but for those of you who have not, this is the story of Olive and, what is his name? Olive and Ethan. Yeah, okay, so there's the other Ethan. I knew there was another Ethan in one of these stories. So it was Olive and Ethan. And essentially, her twin sister married his brother. But at the wedding, everybody except for Olive and Ethan ate from the seafood buffet. And everybody got violently ill with some sort of parasite or something like that. So her sister, the bride, had won this honeymoon to Maui. And she clearly couldn't go, but the tickets couldn't be changed. There was a whole thing. So Olive and Ethan end up going on their honeymoon together. They have to pretend that they are their brother and sister, that they are, like, she is her twin and he is his brother. You know what I mean, right? It's not weird in that way. So it is a fake relationship of sorts. They have to pretend that they're a couple. It's forced proximity because they are in this hotel together in Maui. They really can't get away from each other. And it's an enemies to lovers because they don't particularly like each other. So again, it's hitting 3 boxes, but I picked it for forced proximity. So yeah, and it's essentially just their story, and this was amazing. I loved it. So there are two schools of people, or two groups of people, I think, that have come to Christina Lauren books. There are those who read back when they wrote the Beautiful Bastard series, and you know, are used to that much more spicy work from them. And then there are those of us, myself included, of course, who started reading their stuff with Dating You, Hating You, and Roomies, and things like that, where these books, there is a bit of adult content in here, but it's behind closed doors, it's fade to black. You're only really getting the foreplay, to be completely honest. So this is, my mother loved this book. She thought it was hilarious. So yeah, I highly recommend this one. So good, and you need to check it out. And the very last one is Fake Dating. And I am going very clean on this last one because this is a YA novel. And that is 10 Things I Hate About Pinky by Sandia Menon. This is the third book in the Dimple and Rishi series, but it's more of like the Dimple and Rishi universe. Like each story can be told or can be read as a standalone, but I have read all of them. So this is the story of Pinky, and again, I'm blanking on the guy's name. Is it Raoul? It's not Raoul. Raj? I think his name is Raj. So if I'm wrong, I will put it right here. But so the two of them kind of know each other, but they really don't get along well. And Pinky's parents, they always spend the summer at this like lakeside house up in like the New England area. And anyway, they have been bugging her about finding a boyfriend, and like, oh, you should find a nice boy to, you know, kind of spend some time with, and yada yada yada. So she kind of lies and says that she's dating this guy Raj, and she ends up inviting him to spend the summer with her family at this house. It's like, it's not a little house, it's a big house, and have a fake relationship essentially. And it is really cute. I am a huge fan of Sandia Menon's writing. I love this series. When Dimple Met Rishi, there's something about Sweetie. This one, 10 Things I Hate About Pinky. I do have the novella that comes after book 1 that I plan on reading in February that I'm looking forward to. But yeah, I highly recommend this one. I mean, it's YA contemporary, which is usually not my jam, but I fell in love with these from the first one that I read. And I want to grab all of them on hardcover, and I'd love at some point to reread them all because they're just an absolute delight. So anyway, guys, that is all that I have for today's video. I do hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below, what would you pick for these tropes? You know, what sweeter, cleaner romances would you pick for these tropes? And please do not forget to check out Steph's video. Of course, as I already said, linked below. And of course, subscribe to Steph if you haven't subscribed to her yet. Again, she is fantastic and puts out some great videos. And until my next video, everybody, take care and happy reading. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.